Everyone, and welcome to Module 6, in which we'll examine social justice in the food system. Now, part of your assignment for this week is to watch a panel of experts discuss this topic and this panel was put together at the University of California, Berkeley, and that's pretty lengthy, so I'm going to keep my portion of this quick. So first, some quick announcements. There is going to be no module assigned the week of spring break. We have Quiz 2 approaching, same exact format as Quiz 1, and it will cover the readings and lectures from modules 4 through 7. So please review these to prepare. Again, you can use your materials, but there is a time limit. And the quiz will be posted on Monday, March 14th, and due by 11:59 p.m. on Sunday, the 20th. And also, your diet assignment will be due Sunday, the 20th. So let's just briefly talk about social justice in the food system. Now, in past weeks, we've really focused on agriculture, and social justice is a really important topic when we're discussing agriculture, but it's also really important in other aspects of the food chain as well, including distribution, processing, food service, etc. So really, what are we talking about when we're talking about social justice? Well, we're really talking about the quality of life and health of and living conditions for many of our workers in the food chain, and also for society as a whole. So this topic would really, well, first let me say that this is a really hard topic to address because when we read about issues of social justice, of course, as empathetic human beings, this can really be difficult to hear about, that we have people who are living and working in certain conditions in order to produce our food, and especially to produce our food inexpensively. And this is really hard to think about and to talk about, but it's such a huge issue in the food system that I think we would be really remiss in not talking about it. And it's also difficult because this can be a very political issue because this topic is so policy driven. And in the forum, it does get a little political at one point. And that's not to say that I or the school at all is promoting one political stance, but just to say that this is a political issue that we need to consider. And also, please feel free to post your responses on the discussion board for the week. So one thing I also liked about the forum is that, and about one of our readings, this the Hands That Feed Us from the Food Chain Workers Alliance, is that they also address points in which anybody could intervene in order to improve this situation. So I would ask that as you read through all of the materials and watch the forum, that you just kind of keep an open mind and try not to get too depressed, but instead think, how can I, as maybe an individual, and especially as a nutrition professional, intervene? So who do these social justice issues impact? Well, we've seen in past weeks that they impact food producers and the children living on site at farms. So for example, think about the increased exposure to pesticides, and that's just one example. We also have to think about living conditions and availability of health care for food workers, especially think of migrant workers who may be working for less than minimum wage and may not have the tools to improve their situations. We also have to think about other workers along the food chain, including in food service, including in restaurants. And the researchers really, I think, do a good job of addressing why this is an issue in these sectors as well. We also have to think about the communities with the food system operations. So, for example, think about last week when we talk about how people in communities that live in CAFOs are impacted with odor and food property value, or sorry, not food property, house values and property values, etc. Not to mention the health impacts. And then we also have to think about the global community. So One aspect of that is especially addressed in this article, Climate Change, Human Rights, and Social Justice, that you were assigned. And that talks about how really the impact of climate change and the discussion of health, again, these are not separate issues, these are very similar issues. And there's a lot of overlap. And in all of these groups that we're discussing, really the impact is felt disproportionately most by people of color, people who are low income, and women. And I think that's emphasized in our materials throughout the day as well. And so, also as you're examining these materials, I want you to kind of keep in mind one of the ideas that we've dealt with in these past weeks, which is externalized costs that consumers do not pay. So when we don't pay workers enough, or when we're compounding these expenses that we're not paying for, such as health problems or air quality, etc. These are costs that are not paid by consumers. But the question is, are they paid by consumers ultimately? So in this report of the Food Chain Workers Alliance, the hand that feeds us, one of the things that struck me was such higher rates of dependence on public health programs such as Medicaid or SNAP for food chain workers compared to the average person. So in the end, taxpayers are needing to pay some of these costs, but not when we pay for our food. And certainly all of the individuals who need these services are not getting these services. So really quickly, I'd like to look at a few stories that are in the news. I think my links got messed up. I'm just going to actually escape and I have these tabbed. So let's look at these real quick. So this first story was sent to me by one of you, and I really appreciate you sending this important article, which was a January article from the New York Times, and it's talking about the working conditions of female farm workers, and basically how unbelievably common sexual harassment and abuse are in this population. So I think one of the, please feel free to look more into this, but I think there was some very sobering facts in here. Estimates of upwards of 60% of farm workers who have experienced sexual harassment. And let me see here. Oh, and this really blew me away. As an Iowa immigrant farm worker told her lawyer, we thought it was normal in the United States that in order to keep your job, you had to have sex. So these are consequences that we may not really think about on the consumer end, but that are really impacting many, 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 many lives of our food producers. The second story, it just came out today. I'm a couple weeks ahead of you. So today is February 4th here. And this was from Marketplace, and it was about the farm workers facing shortages of decent and affordable homes. And let me see down here. I thought there was a particularly powerful paragraph here. Okay, so, but farm worker housing is scarce. Farm workers don't make a lot of money. They don't have a lot of options. The housing they're able to find is often substandard. They often, you will see overcrowding, which can be harmful psychologically. It's stressful. It's easier in overcrowded housing for diseases to spread. Tuberculosis, pesticide exposure, and viral outbreaks are a few of the issues, along with problems with adequate showers, ventilation, and utilities, according to county health officials. So again, this is another very important externalized cost that the consumer is not paying, is these kind of standard wages earned by migrant farm workers. And then here's a little bit more of kind of a hopeful op-ed also that I just pulled up from this week. So, I mean, just looking, there's many that are current, so please feel free to keep your eye out for some of these. But it's about Detroit, and as we all know, Detroit is in a lot of trouble financially, and residents are really trying to reclaim their power in this city. And one of the methods by which they're doing this is really trying to reclaim their food sovereignty. So please feel free to look more at this story. But basically, the idea is that, you know, there are so many food deserts in Detroit, and the community is really rallying back to have more control and autonomy over its food production, and produce more food within the city limits of Detroit, especially through urban farming. So this is really kind of hopeful and interesting, although these individuals do face a lot of barriers. Oh, and I just had actually one more here, and it's not directly related to today, but it's something that I came across that I thought might be interesting for all of you, which is a website called Sustainable RDN, and it's just kind of interesting and touches on a lot of the topics that we've talked about. So there's a bunch of presentations, and I haven't looked a lot at all of these, but I think that it could be a really good resource for you personally and professionally if you're looking for something for specifically for our profession. So that's kind of interesting. All right, well, that's all I have for you today because, again, you have the panelist lecture to watch and a number of materials to read. So I look very forward to hearing your impressions on the discussion board. And as always, please feel free to contact me with any questions or concerns. Thanks, everyone, and have a great day.